Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa Spark and I am the owner of Unique Spark.
I'm Terry Tafoya Monroe and I am the owner and founder of Eternal Truth LLC.
Hi everyone, welcome to Unique Spark Heart Healing, and today we are on part 8 and we're going to talk about renewing the mind for healing. Our question is, how does your thinking patterns build armor or walls around your wounded heart? And so we want to explore the concept of renewing the mind and tearing down those walls. But let's first get to our thinking patterns. I want to share some of my ungodly thinking patterns that I just discovered a couple of years ago. I think a lot of times people often state that they feel, especially women, that they are not good enough in things that they do. I had that thinking pattern. I had another thinking pattern that I had to overperform or over people please in order for someone to like me. I didn't want to feel that rejection. I had another thinking pattern on down the line as I was working with God, that I'm actually not loved for who I am. Matter of fact, when I met with Terry once, you brought that up and that brought tears to my eyes. You said to me, I don't think that you ever feel like you've been loved for who you really are. And I got all choked up when you said that first to me. I also have a thinking pattern of I have to always hurry to get things done. It's a belief system. It produces behavior where I'm always rushing. And we learned a couple of videos ago that rushing is not of God. And so what I want to talk about is those thinking patterns for me were like it's like a cement machine that churns around and around and around. And I think for me, I would take those negative thought patterns, churn them around and around and around, and they built walls that protected the wounds in my heart. And I was comfortable behind those walls until it came to the point where I couldn't maintain that wall or armor anymore. It was too heavy to carry.
Right. Before you jump into that, Vanessa, one of the first healing classes that I went to, it was really cool. They played a song, and it was like a 1950 song, and all he did was play the first verse, and then he asked the audience to repeat what the next verse was. And everybody knew what the next verse was. And what he showed us was that our minds, when we're building these walls or repeating these patterns to ourselves, is now so stuck in our memory that you don't forget it. And you can't undo it. Unless you literally take that tape out. You know, he was talking about tapes because we're talking about the 80s. And really take all of the tape out. That's the only way your cassette got ruined, is if that tape got pulled out, right? And that's literally what we're talking about right now, is undoing walls that we have built around ourselves
for years, decades.
And undoing that, and it's a hard thing to do, again, depending on our age when we start.
Yes, so true. And you know, when you do take those ungodly thoughts, or sometimes they're called limiting beliefs, when you take those out, they always need to be replaced with the truth. But before we get to that exchange, before we talk about that, I want to talk about some more walls or armor that people build to protect their wounded heart. I've already shared about my perfectionism wall, my people-pleasing, my performance walls. We talked in previous tapes about denial, avoidance, substance abuse.
Shopping.
Bandages. We've talked about distractions. We've talked about being critical, a self-critical wall, or emotional eating. That's I used that one for many years, or being busy. Another one I'd like to talk about is the wall of projection. And that is when we take our negative feelings and behaviors and project them onto others. And this can lead to blaming others for one's pain instead of taking responsibility for our personal growth. We can't blame others for our personal pain, even though there may be some connection there, but
when we're more focused on what's wrong with somebody else, it helps us not focus on ourselves.
Right.
So I think an example would be if you were hanging out with somebody, or even you might judge us after watching our video.
Yes.
It's easier to judge us than it is to actually see if there's something that we're saying that could pertain
it's triggering.
to you. Right. It could be triggering. So it's way easier, and it's a self-protection to go, oh my gosh, did you see those two girls? They're talking about Jesus again.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the way that we keep that wall protected, is like, we're not going to go in there. We're just going to make fun of them or dismantle what they're saying or highlight something
that's good.
to make us feel better. Like,
yes.
oh, did you see how much weight she's gained? Did you see what she was wearing? Because now everybody's attention is off of that you could actually be being stirred in your heart.
Right.
And now everybody's focused on, oh, wow, what was she wearing?
Yes, that's a good point. Another wall that we want to talk about is repression. And that's taking painful memories or emotions into the subconscious mind, making them inaccessible. We don't even know that they're there. And this can lead to unresolved trauma and emotional issues, which is that's something that I did. I didn't know that I had an abandonment issue until a heart healing. I had repressed it and kept it hidden. Also, a painful marriage I had repressed and kept it hidden. I didn't want to dig anything out. I didn't want to take a look at that. And another wall, and this will be the last one that we'll talk about today, is the wall of isolation. And the reason I want to talk about this one is because I hid behind isolation. I removed myself from a lot of social interactions and cutting off emotional connections with other people because I didn't want them asking me about it. I didn't share my pain. Why? Because I grew up thinking that if you share your pain with someone, then they're going to ask you every day, how are you doing? How's the other person doing? Are you taking care of yourself? And it was just drawing more attention to that pain.
Yeah. And the last thing we want to do is have attention drawn.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I hear you. And for those of us that were born in more of our era, you know, my mom used to always say, like, you don't share our dirty laundry.
Yes.
You don't go and tell our dirty laundry. And it was instilled in me. Like, we would literally get in the car, we'd be driving over to a relative's house, and we would be being told, now you don't go telling everybody what happened to you. You don't go telling, you know, da-da-da. And so there was like this huge amount of fear of like, oh, you don't tell anybody what happens behind closed doors.
Yes.
Like, you keep that a secret.
Yeah, so what other kind of walls did you have that you have built around your wounded heart?
Well, I know the biggest one was trust, because I had been so verbally and mentally abused from the age of very young, being a child, that you really had to earn my trust. And, you know, that's completely opposite of what God says, because love should not be conditional. But my love was not only conditional, but you had to earn it. So it's like the protection I put around myself almost put me on a pedestal of like, nope, you can't be my friend. Oh, nope, sorry. So it was, but what I realized, I was protecting my heart. I was protecting my heart from hurt. And then after I got divorced, I had to protect myself from love.
Oh, yes.
You know, from getting into another bad relationship. But, you know, since we're talking today about dismantling and replacing, is that God wanted me to have no fear in love.
Right.
He was calling me into this wooing trust relationship with him, where he wanted me to trust him. And that was really scary for me, because I had controlled everything my whole life. So I didn't really need God, even though I thought God was in my life. So as God is wooing me on this basically love story, I'm testing each thing. I'm like, I don't know, God, really? Yeah. And he starts giving me coins. He starts dropping coins literally from heaven. And it built this trust, because I finally was letting down. I'd be crying and walking and find a penny, and I'm like, what? And I would start laughing sometimes. Sometimes I start giggling. And it was this very slow process of going, oh my gosh, every time I go on a walk, you give me a coin. And it came to a day where finally I went on a walk. I was stressed out. We were going through the divorce paperwork because I had a court date. I didn't have a lawyer. I didn't have money. I didn't have anything. I'm trusting God. I'm walking with God. I go out on this walk. I'm all over the place. I'm like crying, emotional. And all of a sudden I look down and there's like 5 coins. I'm like, wait, there's 5. And I picked up one, I picked up another, and I heard the voice of the Lord say to me, why do you trust that you'll find a coin? And I'm like, because you give me a coin every time I go on a walk. So he has earned my trust. Then he said, what does the coin say? And I started laughing, like, in God we trust.
Yes.
In God we trust. So he was slowly building this trust relationship with me in the funniest way, with pennies. People thought I was crazy. And now it has become this love story of trust between God and I. But it was hard getting through those walls. It was hard breaking down those walls.
Yes. And there are thought patterns that built those walls.
Yeah.
Yes. And so we want you to take a look today at the walls that you're building around your heart. And the call to action today is to think and ask God to reveal to you what is one negative thought pattern that you've placed into this cement machine, that you're churning and churning this thought pattern, and it is building a wall around your heart. What is that wall? And then the second thing we want you to think about is, after you've identified that negative thought pattern, I want you to think about something that you can replace it with, a positive truth. What can you replace that with? And also put that thought into this cement machine, and let's start building boundaries and walls of truth.
We're basically deconstructing a foundation that we've built for however old you are.
Yes.
And we are completely dismantling that.
Yes.
Like the walls of Jericho, which we won't go into that now. Hopefully you'll do a teaching on that.
Yes.
And then we are replacing, we're building a brand new solid foundation based off of truth, based off of new thought patterns, and based off of a life that God originally intended for us.
Right. And it doesn't really, I don't know if I want to use that we're going to build another wall, but we're building armor. We're going to be building armor, and we're going to be using the armor of God instead of these walls or armors that protected the wounded heart.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to be doing that exchange.
Yes, that sounds good. So what verse do you have for us today?
Well, the first one that came to my heart was in 1 John 4:18, and there's no fear in love. And, that's something I want you to sit by your quiet time and look that up and really dive deep into that. But the one I'm going to leave you with today is 2 Corinthians 5:17. So, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation.
Yes.
Old things have passed away, and behold, all things have become new.
Wonderful.
And I'm looking so forward as we dismantle these fake walls that we've put up, and we exchange that for armor.
Yes.
That we learn to walk in our true identity of who we're created to be.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.